So I just wanted to share some thoughts on some recent current events and take a look at, from a Torah perspective, what's going on. All right, so if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I literally go through like the difference between the Jews, where the Jews come from, and the rest of the 70 nations. And we look at some current groups from the 70 nations, from different groups and where they come from, like the WEF, the Illuminati. I'm not going to write them all down, but Freemasons, all of that kind of stuff. And also agendas, different kinds of agendas. So those are in some of my other videos. I'm going to talk very quickly. So again, I also, lots of videos on this progression of generations from Adam and Eve through Seth, Noah, Shem, and then Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the forefathers of Judaism, and what it means. So please go and look at that. What I want to talk about today is just how I'm going to take from a few different books, specifically right now, this handbook of Jewish thought by the Rav Aryeh Kaplan. He was brilliant. He actually did also a lot of the translation of this book, the Torah Anthology, which was Melm Loez. Rabbi Yaakov Kuli started this. There was a time when a lot of the Jews were forgetting Hebrew, like 300, 400 years ago, and they were talking Ladino. And so what he did was he tried to compile a very comprehensive layman's book, basically, in Ladino, and just pretty much get Jews back to the Torah and get Jews back to Judaism. I also pull a lot from Rabbi Avigdor Miller. Amazing. But the Torah Anthology, so Rabbi Kaplan translated a lot of it into English. And I highly recommend that every single Jew get this anthology. It has so much Torah in it, and it's fascinating. Just all, you get the pshat, which is the simple, you get the stories. It goes pretty much verse by verse. And there's, I think, like 14 or 15 volumes. I mean, you'll read them every week, over and over. And then, so I'm trying to find where to just show you. Okay, so like we'll go verse by verse and then explain. So it's the Hebrew, then it's the English, and then he just pretty much pulls everything together from the Mishnah, from the oral Torah, from the written Torah, from the Rashi, all the Tilgumim, all the translations, different explanations, from the Zohar. So the secret of the Torah, and you get so much Torah. And then he also, if it's relevant, like where it's relevant in the Torah, he talks about halacha, what to do. Just your basic stuff. So it's like a one-stop shop, really. I think every single Jew must read that and get on board. Okay, so I'm going to talk from Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, and we're going to explain. So basically, Adam and Eve sinned. Eve sinned. Okay, and she caused Adam to sin, and because of that, death was brought into the world. And this is very, very complicated, lots of information, but I'm just going also, obviously, not through everyone in the generation until we get to to Avraham, but I'm just going a little bit. So Adam and Eve sinned, caused Adam to sin, death was brought into the world, and we're talking about different levels of spiritual realities, okay? So they fell spiritually into more physical reality. Again, from Rabbi Kaplan from the Book of Creation and the Behir, he talks about a 5-dimensional, 5D universe, okay? And where it's the 3D of the physical, time, and spiritual, the soul. Okay, and it all makes sense. Again, I mean, I'm not a master, but I mean, like, it's starting to make some sense. But I have some different videos that talk about things like time and different things about that. So I'm not going through all of that here. So Then there was Cain and Abel. There's a story there. I'm not going to go through every story. Then they had Seth. So Seth, then there were 10 generations to Noah. And there was a flood here. Flood. Where everyone got destroyed and only Noah and his 3 sons survived. Ham and Japheth, whatever. I talk about them in other shurim. From these come the 70 nations, okay? And a lot of these groups here have like kind of like the anti-Torah. They have their evil spiritual practices because they mostly worship Satan, okay? Again, lots of information on that in other story, in other shurim, other lessons, okay? It gets very complicated, so, but anyway, when they get too much spiritual power in our physical world, everything goes to chaos and they get destroyed, okay? But what happened here from the sin, when death was introduced, to right around here, this was Tower of Babel. And Nimrod. Okay, and Sdom. This is this time around when Abraham was coming on the scene. But what happened was from Adam and Eve to Noah, there was 10 generations. Okay, and what happened was during this time, they only had a small amount of commandments from God. Adam knew God. Adam and Eve both knew God and God spoke to them, blah, blah, blah. That was his son. They knew. Everyone knew about God here. But somehow in the year 200 around that, they became pagan. They said what happened was God created different forces to run basically our reality. Okay? It's very complicated. But God is also involved in our reality, but he created other forces because also God just creates. He just creates. He's all good, 100% goodness, 100% love. He created the angel of death to destroy. Okay, but some of these people started worshiping the angel of death and other angels that are in charge of other things. Everything has an angel, basically. We call it an angel. It sounds sweet, and we think about angels when we're little kids or whatever, but they're just forces. Okay, so it's just that the English translation of malachim is angels, but it's energies. It's different energies. There's a spiritual dimension that is related to the physical dimension. So anything physical has a spiritual counterpart. Or actually, it's opposite. Everything, because the spiritual is first. It's actually the potential, and this is a realized or actual in the physical. But so, even grass, even whatever, a fly, like everything has an energy, animating it basically. Okay, so they had only a few small number of commandments that they had to follow and worship God. And what they did was they went astray. They started worshiping idols. Again, I have other classes on this. But so at this time, okay, so what I want to explain about that from Rabbi Kaplan here is that he says basically that at that time, that that humanity could have been called Israel, because the Torah was created before our universe was created, before the world was created. The Torah was created like 974 years before, something like that. And in it is written about Israel. but all of humanity could have been called Israel. So it says the commandments were given so that all humans could partake of God's good by obeying them. It is thus taught that the non-Israelites who obey these 7 commandments have a portion in the world to come. There were 7 commandments here. 7. They're called the 7 commandments of the sons of Noah. Okay, that's actually here. But they were meant to benefit humanity in this world, serving as a basis of morality and ethics. Thus, the prohibition against idolatry and blasphemy teach man to worship and respect the supreme being, this being the fountain of all ethics. The prohibitions against murder, incest, adultery, robbery, and the perversion of justice serve as the foundations of human morality. Okay, so, and then there's finally the prohibition against eating flesh from a living animal teaches man kindness towards lower creatures as well as control of his base appetites. So again, I guess I could, if I started, I could write down the 7. This is meant for, it's for me to Jew, but anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So there are 7 commandments of the sons of Noah. All right, and then there were 10 generations from Adam to Noah. And throughout this period, mankind experienced the continual moral decline, as we discussed, and it brought about the Great Flood, which destroyed all the descendants of Adam, with the exception of Noah and his family. Then after the Great Flood, the world once again reverted to its paganism and immorality, with very few exceptions. Humanity again forgot God's universal laws. There were exceptions, such as Noah's son Shem and his grandson Eber. Shem and Eber had an academy, but they didn't teach people publicly. They just had an academy, and whoever wanted to learn about God went to them, I guess. And then another 10 generations went by until Abraham was born, and he was called Abram. And throughout those generations, humanity kept becoming less and less moral, more and more immoral. And so into this pagan atmosphere, a unique individual was born. From his earliest childhood, Abraham transcended his pagan environment and recognized that the world was governed by one supreme being as one of the greatest geniuses of all time, or of his time. Abraham was able to use his keen mind to see through the sham and falsehood of the values of his generation and understand the true purpose of his creation. So again, this is from the Handbook of Jewish Thought by Rav Aryeh Kaplan. Brilliant. And he says also, okay, so he's basically just summarizing everything into points, and it's really illuminating. And so he says that Abraham's faith developed and overshadowed everything else in his life. And when Abraham was 48 years old, a crucial historical event took place. God saw in Abraham a force that could bring all mankind back to him, if only humanity could be unified. He therefore brought a spirit of unity upon the world, influencing all mankind to act in one accord. However, instead of uniting to serve God, mankind united to build the Tower of Babel. And then at this point, humanity as a whole lost the opportunity to become Israel, to come under the category of Israel, and the group designated to receive the Torah and fulfill the purpose of creation. Instead, the human race was now split up into nations, each with its own language and mission. It was at this time that God decreed that the descendants of Abraham also become a nation with the special mission of serving God and fulfilling his purpose of creation. So it's really in the merit of Abraham that Israel became a special nation to God. And it's genetic, you guys. It's genetic, and we're different than the 70 nations. We're at this point singled out by God to be a nation unto him, and we have a special mission. It says, primarily because of the readiness. So when the Jews left Egypt, and the whole nation of Israel accepted the Torah upon themselves, and they gave their children and their generations ahead of them as guarantors of the Torah. okay? Which means that all of the descendants from the generation of the desert that accepted the Torah at Sinai down to us today in the year 5783. That's us. We're here, and we are guarantors of this lineage that we fulfill the Torah, which means learning the Torah. You have to learn Torah. Torah is a guidebook. There are people over here learning other things and doing other things. And we need to be united learning the Torah and keeping Shabbat. That's the covenant. I mean, and many other things. We have now 613 mitzvot instead of 7. So it says here too. So it says the Israelites were thus totally sanctified to God and became virtually a separate species. God said, "You shall be holy to me, for I, God, am holy, and I have set you apart from all the other peoples that you should be mine." But being chosen is more of a responsibility than a privilege. Israel has the incessant mission of proclaiming God's teachings to the world. It is thus written, "I, God, have called you in righteousness and have set you up as a covenant of people for a light to the nations." That's in Isaiah 42:6. This does not mean that the Torah should be taught to the other nations, but that they should be informed of the universal commandments. Israel has a mission to bear witness to God's existence. God thus told Israel, "You are my witnesses and my servants whom I have chosen." That's also in Isaiah 43:10. It is taught that Israel is like the heart of humanity, constantly beating and infusing all mankind with faith in God and his teachings. The universal message would often be proclaimed even at the price of suffering and persecution. It is taught that Israel is likened to an olive. Since just as an olive must be crushed to bring forth oil, so Israel is persecuted so that its light should shine forth. Even the dispersion of Israel among the nations was to teach the world how to serve God. Moreover, the fact that Israel was scattered all over the world would guarantee that they not become extinct by means of their persecutions. Okay, so we're not all in one place like maybe we are now because of this group. And we're getting to the point. And the state, well, that's very messy. The state of Israel. Okay, the modern state. Okay, so we were scattered for a reason, okay, to preserve us. And it says here, I'm continuing, so even the dispersion of Israel among the nations was to teach the world how to serve God. And then moreover, the fact that Israel was scattered all over the world would guarantee that they not become extinct by means of their persecution. Okay, so because of Israel's unique place in God's plan, the people must constantly be corrected whenever they stray from the true path. From the true path. The true path is outlined for us in the Torah, which is a book of instructions of how to stay on this path, okay, and to be holy. Be a holy nation. Be a nation that's separated from the other nations, okay? And now I'm going to get into the okay, wait, first I'm going to finish this real quick. So it says, because of Israel's unique place in God's plan, the people must constantly be corrected whenever they stray from the true path. God thus said, "Only you have I known of all the families." Only you have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will keep account of all of your sins. That's in Amos 3:2. Still, when God punishes Israel, he only does it as a father punishes his children. It is thus written, "As a man chastises his son, so God your Lord chastises you." Now, it sounds crazy a little bit more in English because it's like, "Behold, I thus said to you." Like, it sounds like, but in Hebrew, it's just the translation in English, just because we're used to from other religions maybe, or I don't know what. It doesn't sound maybe as good, okay? But just take the meaning, not necessarily the words, and behold, yeah, okay. So anyway, at least that's how I feel about it sometimes in English, and especially before I learned Torah and understood a little bit more, I kind of just disregarded it because it's like, behold, I, the Lord, have setteth upon your backs, heart, whatever. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't really speak to me. But if you can learn Hebrew and learn the Torah, it's amazing. Okay, so nevertheless, God promised that despite all of these sufferings, Israel would always continue to exist to fulfill his purpose. He thus said, okay, the mountains may depart and the hills may be removed, but my kindness will not depart from you, neither will my covenant of peace be removed. That's also Isaiah 54:10. He continues, no weapon that is raised against you shall be successful. Every tongue that shall rise against you in judgment shall be condemned by you. This is the heritage of God's servants and the reward from me, Isaiah 54:17. God thus made a covenant with Israel that they would continue to be the bearers of his word for all time. He thus said, this is my covenant with them, my spirit that is with you, and my word that I have placed in your mouth shall not depart from your mouth, nor from the mouths of your children, nor from the mouths of your children's children, now and forever. So, what do I want to say about that? Again, having said all of that, what I'm trying to say here is that we're a separate nation that should be learning Torah, keeping Shabbat, keeping the covenant, keeping and doing the mitzvot. And we should be separate. Okay? So now let's talk about the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav were a group of they're called the mixed multitude in English. And they came out of Egypt with the Jews in Moses took them out. Okay, now there's 5 groups of them, and you can listen to or go to atzmut.com. Rabbi Alon Anava has a great series on the Erev Rav, and he explains who they are. And it's fascinating. There's 5 groups, and one of those groups is called the Giborim. Okay, so at the end of time, which is now, by the way, it's the beginning of the end. I mean, the Messianic era is going to come in the year 7000. It's already going to be that. And we know that from all the teachings and stuff, it's probably going to be by 6000. I mean, we're getting really super duper close. And if you can see how morality is falling again, just like it did in the flood, just did it like it did in the 10 generations from Noah to Abraham. I mean, look at the morality of our generation. It's like crazy. Even just 5 years ago, I remember like reading some of this stuff or learning some of this stuff. And I mean, even there, it was said that like when it starts going into laws, like when some of this stuff starts becoming law in the land, that's when you know like it's, and I'm like, that's going to take forever. And like, boom, here you are, where people can go to jail now for saying that a man can't have a baby. Like there's some places like it's, okay, so the Giborim are like, I'm not going to even translate that. Giborim basically are a group of the Erev Rav. Also in other classes I talk about who the Erev Rav are. I'm not going into it, but it's a group that came out of out of Egypt with the Israelites, and they are, what can I tell you about them? I mean, without going into the whole thing, they basically cause a lot of problems, let's just say that. And they continue to they're the leaders now in our generation of the nation of Israel. Okay, again, watch this on atzmut.com. Rabbi Alon Anava on Erev Rav, okay? And then talk about the state of Israel also, how that was formed. I don't know if he talks about it, but I can in another class. If anyone's interested, let me know. But we're now just talking about the leaders, the rabbis of our generation, and why you need to be very careful. The Torah is given to everybody, every single last person in the nation of Israel, and God himself tells us in the Torah that the Torah is not something far away from us. It's in our hearts. It's not something that we need someone. Yes, we do need rabbis. I'm not saying we don't need rabbis. Of course we need rabbis, but we need to be smart about which rabbis we're following, especially at this point, especially because in the Torah and on all the prophets, it tells us that at the end of time, okay, at the end of time, because there's an end, I talk about this also in time, in my class on time, that in the end there will be a group called the Giborim. And they are the rabbis of our generation leading Am Yisrael, leading the nation of Israel. Okay? And so you have to be smart and you have to be careful who you trust, who you listen to, because that Torah, the knowledge of Torah and the way to look at reality, it's dependent on a lot of things, and it's dependent on, I guess, how holy you make yourself and how pure you make yourself. Okay? And that has a lot to do with how you behave. Okay? Like Rav Miller says, like, it's great that you think you're Jewish and you think you're a good person and whatever, but he gives an example of a lifeguard who in his heart is a lifeguard. Just like in your heart you feel Jewish, but you're not doing anything. You're not keeping Shabbat, you're not keeping kosher, you're not learning Torah. But in your heart, you eat challah or whatever on Friday night and l'chaim to everyone. But that's, it's the same, like Rabbi Miller says, that if somebody saw somebody drowning and they went to the lifeguard and says, save him, and he said, well, in my heart I'm saving him. He's not doing. He says a Jew is somebody who does. So the way to know that you really have something in your heart is to see how you express it. So just got a little distracted, so I don't know where I am right now. But basically, when I'm talking about the Giborim, I want to talk about what happened at the coronation of King Charles. That happened on Shabbat. Okay? Rabbi Marvis, the head rabbi of the UK, has many videos of himself very proudly and very enthusiastically talking about how King Charles has invited him and his wife to stay in the palace so they can observe Shabbat and also participate in his coronation. And then he also does a video where he's singing Havdalah after the things that you say after Shabbat to make a separation between the holy and the unholy, Shabbat and all the other days. Okay, and like realize too that Shabbat is like the most important covenant that we have with God, one of them, and we have a few obviously, but I mean, the fact that the coronation happened on Shabbat, I mean, I don't think it takes a Torah scholar genius, a gaon, a shlita in Torah, and I'm saying that ironically just because everybody these days is calling themselves gaon, the genius rabbi. Oh, the genius rabbi that desecrated the Shabbat and went into a place of avodah zarah. Okay, he went into a church. Where was the coronation held? It was held in a church. Okay, are Jews allowed to go into a church? Are Jews allowed to step foot in a church on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? No. Are they allowed to step foot in a church on Shabbat? Like, it's shocking, and everyone should be absolutely shocked. And by the way, it was televised, okay? So it was televised, so now this proud rabbi, Gibor, I guess because Gibor translates really into hero. But maybe what it means actually is proud. The proud rabbis. You know what? I like that. That's my chidush. Okay? The Giborim are the proud rabbis of our generation. And how was he proud? Was he ever proud? Okay, so he desecrated the Shabbat to crown a king of the 70 nations of Edom. If you don't know who Edom is, then look at my other shiurim. Edom comes from the son of Yitzchak. So Yitzchak had Yaakov, and he also had Esav. Okay? So this proud rabbi, the head rabbi of the United Kingdom, went and crowned and went and participated in a church on Shabbat, the crowning of one of the kings of Edom, instead of serving on Shabbat the king of the world. The king of the world. And where's the outcry? Like I literally have, I don't pay that much attention to a lot of things, but I haven't heard anything. That's scandalous. That to me sounds like God gave him a test and also gave us a very good window into seeing what's happening. Who are our leaders? Who are the Giborim? If he had just said, look, King Charles, Chuck, listen, Chuck, it's Shabbat. I wish you well. Here's my blessing from me and from all the Jews of the UK. That's respectful. And, there is supposed to be some sort of respect for a king. And also they say that you should go, if you have a chance to see a king coronated, a king of the nations, of the 70 nations, you should go. Why? Because when the Mashiach comes back, when the Mashiach comes, he will be crowned king of the world. And you will see what a pale comparison, whatever coronation ceremony they have is whatever king they crown, the difference between the true king, which is a Mashiach, which comes from the house of David. Okay, that's for only that reason. But okay, so Rav Marvis, Rabbi, I'm going to say Rabbi like that because Rabbi Marvis, Gaon Shlita, proud Rabbi, could have just said that. He could have said, look, it's on Shabbat. I can't come because I'm actually serving the king of the world and the master of the universe on Shabbat, as I'm commanded to do because I'm a Jew. So I can't go. So all the best to you. But no. Instead, what he did, he got an invitation to stay in the palace. And he went. And he did also step foot into a place of Avodah Zarah, into a church, crowning. It's crazy. So, hello. I think that was a sign. Look, God is trying to clue us in, if you're awake, to see your reality clearly because you learn Torah, and especially the Zohar. Okay? So if you're awake and you saw that, you should say, yikes. That's the head of a big country. That's a head rabbi of a big country. And he's a Gibor. He's Erev Rav. He's not good. We can't follow him. We should probably do the opposite of everything he says. That's what I would think, but it's scary. Also, these guys are very proud of all their political connections. I see some of their stuff where Hunter Biden was invited to one of our rabbi's son's weddings or whatever. Seriously? Are you really proud of that? It's just, even if there wasn't so much corruption going on and coming out with that particular political family, just to be involved and proud of your political connections anyway is pride. Now, pride is not a characteristic, a midot that we're supposed to foster. In fact, it says God hates proud people. And who does he love? Humble people. He loves humble people. Why? Moses, who actually got the Torah for the nation of Israel, he went up 40 days and 40 nights, and he went up into the spiritual realms of our reality, and he brought it down for us to learn, actually, to open the book and learn it, and to follow it, because it's a book of instructions. Torah in Hebrew means horaot, instructions. So, and what does it say about Moses? Moses was the most humble. He was a humble servant of God, and God loved him the most. The thing that made him the greatest was his humility. So you think he would be like, oh, the king and queen of whatever place? No, he would be like, anyway, it's just the opposite. It's the opposite. This is upside down world opposite, that the leaders are proud, and that he would say, the Havdalah, which says the difference to keep them separate between holy and unholy, the nation of Israel and all the other 70 nations. There's a difference. There necessarily needs to be a difference. We need to keep that difference because we have a different purpose because of what I read earlier. Because we're a nation of God, unto God. Why? Because of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Not because we're so great. by the way. Not because even when we came out of Egypt, it wasn't on their merit. It was on the merit of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov for different reasons. And because of that, he redeemed us. He showed himself to all the nation of Israel, and he gave us the Torah. And now it's up to us. Now we do have to earn it. We have to earn our redemption. It's not only going to be enough to have zchut avot, to have the merit of our forefathers. We need to do it. And we need to learn Torah. We need to read Zohar to learn that. That's a part of the Torah, okay? So you can't just ignore it and learn Gemara forever. You should start learning the Zohar and then start looking around and seeing reality, okay? And stop following. I mean, if I was in the UK, I would be very seriously concerned because the head rabbi, and it's not just the UK, by the way, but that was just a very recent current event that I wanted to talk about. Didn't talk about everything I wanted to talk about, and hopefully it was kind of clear. But, I mean, it's crazy.